Hello, and welcome to the 2019-2020 NCBBA-W Annual League Meeting. My name is Sandy Sanderson. I'm president of Cole Club Sports and the National Club Basketball Association. We appreciate you joining us tonight for what's undoubtedly going to be our most important meeting in the history of this organization, our first ever annual league meeting. The purpose of this meeting is, like I said, it's annual. We're going to have this meeting over and over again for 100 years to come, hopefully. But we do it annually within all our organizations. We have our annual league meeting where we talk about rule changes, talk about the state of the league, how the previous season went, which we didn't have one yet, how the future, what we have planned for the future season, and then gather your input. That is one of the most important parts of this, is that we can get the feedback from our teams. We take a lot of pride in the fact that we structure our leagues, tailor them to the wants and needs of our teams, our member teams, and this is our best format for which to communicate our side of things and gather your feedback and ultimately let our members vote upon rule changes to the rule book and how we structure things out. So let's get the meeting started. Again, on the slides that you can see here, we've got the women's basketball website. Hopefully you've all been to the website and seen it there. We've been populating it as we've added teams along the way. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We've been announcing when new teams come on board. All of that stuff will get very active once the season begins and we're in play. You're going to see more things like scores popping up, player of the weeks, announcements. There'll be a lot more action going through social media once we tip off this fall. Our agenda for this evening, we're going to address what is Cole Club Sports. We're going to explain that to you, introduce you to the women's division staff, talk about 2020 and what's to come. We'll do a segment on our sponsors and fundraising. We'll go over our voting ballot procedures, and we're going to address league issues that we may want to put on that voting ballot. Then we'll finish up with our timetable for the season and close things out. So we'll move along, but by all means, there's a comment box somewhere on your Facebook page where you can ask questions, make comments. Others can read your comments. If you have a question for me, for anyone up here that's presenting, please put it in that comment box. We have people standing by that are going to read off questions. We ask, use a first name, give us a first name so we know how to address you. Let us know what team you're with as well, because that'll all get documented into the notes of the meeting. So, all right, without further ado, what is Cole Club Sports? Cole Club Sports is the truncated acronym that we use for our parent organization, which is the National Federation of Collegiate Club Sports Leagues, going by Cole Club Sports. We started in 2000 with the formation of the National Club Baseball Association. 34 teams we began with. 19 years later, we're up over 305 teams, and that league has grown and split into 3 divisions along the way. In 2006, the National Club Softball Association was born, and we started with 33 teams. Now that's up over 140 teams. That's women's fast pitch college club softball. Then the National Club Football Association came along. That's tackle football. We get a lot of questions. You run a flag football league. No, this is tackle football, 11 on 11, full pads. We started that with 16 teams, up to 27 now. And then the NCBBA, I said that right, I think, National Club Basketball Association began in 2013 with 28 teams, has now grown to 122. We project 140 teams by tip-off of this season. So that's where we came from, where we progressed to, and we're excited to be launching this first ever inaugural season of the National Club Basketball Association Women's Division. The mission of Cole Club Sports is we're a compilation of governing bodies which oversee collegiate club athletics. We're driven to provide collegiate student athletes with the opportunity to participate in competitive, organized collegiate club athletic leagues and to continually enhance that experience for all the participants. We strive to accomplish that by building lasting relationships based upon trust, commitment, dedication, understanding, and strong lines of communication. Notice strong lines of communication is bolded there. It's underlined. If we could italics it and make it blue, we probably would have. Communication is so much a part of this organization. It's how we become successful because it's club sports. You run your club sports teams. You don't have a lot of excess revenue. We don't have a lot of excess revenue. We can't be at every game. we'd be the NCAA if we had a representative from our staff at every contest out there. We need communication to be flowing two ways. Us to you, you to us, back and forth. That's how we can diagnose problems as they arise. If something doesn't feel right along the way, this doesn't feel like we're getting hosed here on something, bring it to our attention, bring it to our staff's attention. If it doesn't feel right, there's probably a good chance it isn't right, and we can correct it. That's our job to do. We've got that authority to step in there, but if you come to us after the fact, sometimes things aren't correctable at that point anymore. So communication is key. So let's introduce you to the staff. I'm Sandy Sanderson, the president. Alec Verhoff, you're going to meet him shortly. He'll be up on, as well. Many of you new teams have already been working with Alec. He's our director of basketball development. He's been sending out invitations to this meeting, the rules that he sent out, the men's rules he sent out for you to review. He's been handling a lot of the communication with the teams that have come on board. Behind the scenes here, making this meeting happen is Ben Karpinski, our sports information director. Our treasurer is Sandy Sanderson Sr., my father. Accounting specialist is Jeannie Caracciolo. You might have some interaction with her. She sends out invoices as time goes on, as dues are due, performance bonds, things like that. Jeannie's the one that you can ask for invoices from. Zach Ramirez, you're going to meet him a little bit later. He's our Phenom Elite sponsor account manager. Handling Phenom Elite does our uniforms. Wilson sponsor account manager is Joe Schaefer. They're our official basketball. The Game Headwear sponsor account manager Felicia Battaglia. Fundraising sponsor account manager Tracy Reardon, and travel sponsor account manager Eric Curator. Along the lines of more staff, you'll see on this slide that our conference coordinators or regional directors, we like to call them. We break the country up into regions. Sometimes those regions get so big we have to break them into separate conferences within that region. We currently have not assigned conference coordinator, regional director duties yet. We've been so focused on recruiting. We're going to continue to focus on recruiting, and then as we get ready to roll out schedules in September, then we'll start assigning who's going to be running each region. But if you're in, those teams that are in the league, you're going to have a dedicated person that just handles the teams in your part of the country. That regional director is going to be focused on your day-to-day activities as well as your opponents. And, their goal is to give you a great season, help you along the way, put on a great regional playoff for you, and then hopefully get to see you do well at the national championship. So, all right, we're going to move on to 2019-20. What's to come? I'm going to introduce Alec and let him come take the stand for a little bit.
Thank you, Sandy. As he said, I am the Director of Basketball Development. We've been talking with a lot of you new teams so far. So for 2019-2020, what's to come? We have new teams that we're going to get into, conference realignment, conference scheduling, the top 15 poll, and then the regional and national championships. So this is our first year. So every team we have is new so far. So here's some of our teams you can see in the Mid-Atlantic region. We have 12 teams there. That's coming along really nice. North Atlantic region, we have 5 teams. In the New England region, we have 8 teams. Then we move on to some of our newer conferences that we've been building kind of from the ground up. The Great Lakes region, it's 5 teams right now, along with the South Atlantic, which has 2, and the Pacific region, which has 1 right now in San Jose State. So for potential new teams, this list is all teams that have expressed interest. We've had dialogue with. Right now there's still a lot of teams, and we've definitely been hitting heavy in recruiting so far, and we're still doing that, and we'll likely be doing it through the end of the month. As you can see, Purdue is bolded down there. Purdue has given us a verbal commitment. Not received paperwork from them yet, but the Women's League so far is up to 33 teams. You heard Sandy talking about the National Club Baseball Association earlier, which is our biggest league, and in its first year, it was at 34 teams. So you can see kind of the growth of our league, and we're excited where it's at and where it can go. It could grow to be just as big as that one. For conference realignment, once we complete our enrollment of new teams, which will be August 31st, the conferences will be realigned. We hope to get conferences in the Mid-America or Gulf Coast region. Basically what the realignment is with the Mid-Atlantic, it's our biggest conference. There's 12 teams in it. We're going to split that right down the middle to be 6 and 6. There'll be directional, likely north and south teams. The New England region, which is at 8 teams, if it gets one more and moves up to 9, we'll split that one as well, and it'll go to a 4-team and a 5-team. Conference scheduling, the way that works, I sent out last Thursday to all of our member teams the schedule request form. Those are due back to me by September 1st. Please get those in by then. Don't be late. We want to have the schedules out by September 15th. Whenever you're filling those out, it'd be great if you have an academic calendar in front of you, so you can be accurate, you can be thorough and flexible with everything you put down. And here's a sample. This is the one that I sent out. You can take a look at. You can see how it has it listed on the side, whether you'd rather be home, away, either, or any time you would want off. You can see that there's a tournament thrown in there. So if you do participate in a tournament not sanctioned by our league, we're 100% fine with that. We just need to know so we don't schedule you for that weekend. After conference schedules are released, we do encourage you guys to schedule non-conference games, whether that be with teams not in our league or teams in a conference that's still near you. Either way, we encourage all the basketball to be played. We want the most games as possible and for you guys to have the best experience you can. And I will hand it back over to Sandy to discuss our top 15 poll.
Thank you, Alec. So he's explained to you kind of how we get the regular season set up, get to the scheduling process, get the schedule set up. The top 15 poll is something that we do where we will develop a panel right before the season starts of voters. Probably, maybe some alumni that played in the league, some conference coordinators, maybe some administrators, club sports directors that are heavily involved on the side of women's basketball. And we'll develop this panel, and they will vote on the top 15. Preseason wise, they will get, we do a team preview that comes out a couple weeks before the season starts. It gives you an opportunity to brag about your team. You're kind of hyping your team up, what you're going to look like this year. Hey, we've got so many returning seniors. We've got we've got this girl that was all-state point guard in high school, and she's here. Or this girl was on the varsity last year, and now she's on club. You're gonna talk about why your team is so good. We're gonna use that information to market all the teams in the league, get everybody get the pot stirred in terms of hype. To understand, everyone's excited for the season to get started. It's also going to educate those preseason voters on the polls. So they're going to each cast a ballot, and we'll release that top 15 for the season. Then we'll go throughout the season. Every 2 weeks, we'll once again launch a new top 15 with those voters. So during the season, you're going to play your conference games. Mondays, will be your day to report your scores. Monday night at midnight is the deadline. Let us know. We'll have a form we send you that you fill in. This weekend we played this team, this team, this team. Here's what the scores were. We nominate this girl for Player of the Week nominations because she did, she had a triple-double in 2 games. Whatever it might be. Your job is to get that reported back to us on Mondays. One of the things I would take a time right now and think about officers. We talked about communication before. This might be a great responsibility to hand off to an underclassman, maybe someone who you see could be groomed to be a future officer of the program. Let them be in charge of, hey, Beth, your job every Monday, you got to get the scores put together, pick our Player of the Week nomination, and get that over to Alec. That's a great piece of delegation, gets an underclassman involved, and also takes a little bit off your plate in terms of that communication process. But I think that's a great way to handle your scores and make sure they're getting in on time. So our conference coordinators, every Tuesday, they've got your scores now because you got them in on time. They're going to update the website, get that all up to date. The standings on the website will get updated. And now the voters will have fresh content by which to vote from. They can go, hey, what happened this past weekend? This team beat that team. This team got upset by this team. All right, I'm going to change my ballot a little bit here. They submit their new ballots on Wednesdays. Thursday mornings, we launch a new top 15 poll. Now, the top 15 poll is mainly designed for fun. It doesn't put you in. Where you rank in the polls does not affect whether or not you make the postseason at all. It's designed for fun, gets people excited. Hey, we're ranked number 1 for the first time ever. We're playing the number 5 team in the country this weekend in our conference. That's exciting. Let's get hyped up about it. Where it does actually carry some merit is when you do get to the postseason. It can affect where we host the regional playoffs, and it can affect where you are seated at the national championship. It's 25% of our national championship seeding formula. So our regional championships. So you're all in a conference that's within a region. Some of those, this early on, it's quite possible that those regions will be singularly conference, one conference per region. Maybe we expand some. For example, the Mid-Atlantic is going to have to be split. 12 teams in there is too many for one conference. 7's our ideal number per conference. 8 we can live with. 9 is too many. We got to split if we get to 9. So the regional championships. So our goal as the league grows, eventually the league will get to 8 regions comprised of 3 conferences per region, with the goal of being 7 teams per conference. Now the winners of the regional championships automatically go on to our national championship. So the question is, how do you get into regionals? The top 2 teams get to move on. So if it's, let's say the North Atlantic region is just one conference, you play your conference schedule. We've got them 1 through 5. Here's who finished first. Here's who finished second. 1 and 2 play in a regionals. It's a 2-team regional. It's best of 3. It's hosted at the number 1 team. If the Mid-Atlantic, for example, ends up a North and South, right? The top 2 from the North and the top 2 from the South make the regional playoffs. And it's hosted at, so we've got a winner of the North, a winner of the South. Which one of those 2 is ranked higher? We host the regional playoff at that higher ranked team's facility. Regional championship tournaments are currently planned to be held in single elimination format. That's what the men are doing. We will address that later in the voting ballot procedures to see if that's how we want to roll with it for women's. We generally hold the regional playoffs 2 to 3 weeks before the national championship. That gives us enough buffer room where as the teams clinch and punch their ticket to the national championship, they still have time to turn around and make their travel preparations to get there. And host it at the highest ranking conference champion in the region. Any questions so far? Let us know. Spit them out if you got them. Let's talk about the national championship now. So starting in September, we're going to go on a hunt for where are we going to have the national championship. We're looking for a venue and a host city to host that event. Our goal is to secure a venue that meets or exceeds the needs and expectations that you set forth in what you want in a national championship. And we will address this later. Well, I apologize, I just hit the microphone. But we will address this later and talk about, here's our criteria that we were basing our search on. Do you want us to change that? Do you want us to put other priorities higher than others? We encourage you to offer suggestions. If you've got a great facility at your school, you say, Sandy, Alec, our school would be a great spot to host a national championship. Spit it out. Let us know. Maybe it's not your school. Maybe it's just in your town. There's a great facility. Let us know. This is all part of the communication process and helps us to know what we're looking for when we go out searching for that venue. And the dates will be determined. We'll be discussing that here shortly. In terms of on the men's side, which is what we're starting with here, the search for a venue, they've given us this priority list. But when we look for the national championship, the number one thing they say is most important to them, they want it to be centrally located amongst the whole league, right? The men's league is nationwide. We happen to be doing it in South Bend, Indiana, 2 years in a row because that's kind of in the middle of the country, easy access to Chicago, easy flights there. Their second priority, they want to make sure it's the right weekend in April that they want. They want mid-April for the national championship. Their third priority, they want a small college arena. They don't want a high school facility. They don't want a YMCA facility. They don't want a facility that has 9 courts under one roof. They want that small, intimate, small college gym feel with a hardwood surface. Other priorities they care about further down the list, they want to make sure that the schedule works out that the national championship game can be early on Sunday afternoon so that they can play it, win the national title, and hit the road and get back to campus Sunday night. They want the venue to have on-site locker rooms for all the teams. And their lowest priority, but still a priority, is the access to practice auxiliary space in the facility. All right. I am going to bring Zach up. Zach's going to talk to you about our sponsors and our fundraising department and let you know what opportunities afford you there.
All right. Thanks for joining. My name is Zach Ramirez. Within the NCBBA, my role is Director of Men's Basketball Operations. And like Sandy said, I'm going to be talking to you about our sponsors and fundraising options. So let's get started. We're going to start with our fundraising sponsor. Tracy Reardon is our fundraiser sponsor account manager for Fundraiser. Contact information listed at the bottom of the slide there. So Fundraiser is the official fundraiser of the NCBBA. They're an online fundraising platform. They fit your budgetary needs. You can start a campaign online, completely free of charge, and you can share it on Facebook, Twitter, on websites, via email. Just get it out there on social media. You invite players to share the fundraiser and make it a friendly competition. Maybe you get your teammates together, share it, and see who can raise the most money for their team. All you need is an email address and a verified PayPal account. And again, if you contact Tracy, she'll definitely be able to help you out with that. There's a new way to use Fundraiser as well. The Florida Club football team created sub-campaigns, so that kind of ties back into that whole competition thing. Each player can create a sub-campaign and then tie it to the main campaign, so you can pull your donations together as a group. Great way to hold players responsible, as well as start some friendly competition again. And this is just a graphic of what the Harvard men's club basketball team did a few years back. As you can see, they raised over $6,000 for their team, which went to, maybe travel, maybe, you get some new uniforms out of that, whatever works, but great option for you. Now we're going to change pace and go to our travel sponsors, I should say, Avis and Motel 6. Eric Curator is your representative for that. His information is at the bottom of the slide as well. And so Motel 6, we'll start there, the official lodging partner of the NCBBA. Teams, players, fans, you name it, receive a 10% discount on the best available rate. You can book online using the link there shown on the screen, or you can book using your phone, obviously, by calling 1-800-899-9841. And you can see the corporate ID number for Cold Club Sports is CPUM. 4EHL. So that's another way to book if you want to call in. You can also find more information on Motel 6 by clicking the link on the NCBBA website. And Avis, the preferred van car rental agency of the NCBBA. Discounts are available on all vehicles, 12 passenger vans, which could come in handy when you're traveling for those conference matchups. Instead of pulling together 4 cars, you can get all of your teammates together and take one van, a little bit easier for you. Rental availability for players 18 and over. And one thing that's really cool about our Avis sponsorship is you get that underage fee waived, that 25 and under fee, completely waived for you. If you're booking over the phone, be sure to mention you're with Cold Club Sports and use the account number D712300. In addition to discounted rates, Cold Club Sports can receive additional benefits by enrolling in the Avis Preferred program. To enroll in the Avis Preferred program, you can follow the link below, use that, and get it all set up. All right, so we're going to move on to the game. Our sponsor account manager, Felicia Battaglia, contact information again listed at the bottom. The game is the official headwear sponsor of the NCBBA. Some great product offerings, beanies, boonies, visors, hats, you name it. You can pick your style, colors, logo, fully customizable caps. As you can see, we use this hat for the national championship for the men's division last year. You can see the NCBBA shield on the side, customizable. We have the date and the venue on the side there, and then the NCBBA national championship logo there on the front for you. And it's also a great opportunity, if you want to fundraise for your team, maybe order an extra hat or order some extra beanies or boonies or whatever it may be, and you can get a fundraising campaign started on your own, maybe selling them. So yeah, that option is there for you as well. The game offers exclusive low prices and customizations, early discount order period that's available to you as well. And as we touched on before, the free NCBBA shield included on each piece of headwear. You can contact Felicia. Again, there's her information listed on the screen. Now we're going to move on to Wilson. Sponsor account manager Joe Schaefer. Wilson is the official basketball of the NCBBA. The Wilson Evolution WTB 0586 is what you guys will be getting. 3 official NCBBA Wilson basketballs free of charge. And I don't have a women's ball for you right now, but as you can see, the men's ball we have, the NCBBA Shield right there. Pretty nice basketball overall. So you get 3 of those complimentary, and each basketball, again, will have the official NCBBA artwork. So in order to get your complimentary basketballs, we're going to send you an equipment form via email prior to the season. Basically, you're going to jot down your name, school name, address, city, state, zip, and we recommend when you do that, you use an on-campus address because we don't want it going to maybe someone's apartment and having the risk of it getting taken while you're not there. So yeah, be on the lookout for those equipment forms. And in addition, you can definitely order some extra gamer practice balls, and you're going to want to contact Joe Schaefer. His extension's at the bottom of that screen for your convenience. So if you're interested in extra game balls or practice balls, go ahead and contact Joe. And last but not least, we have Phenom Elite, where I'm the sponsor account manager, and my contact information is listed below. Phenom Elite is the official uniform provider of the NCBBA. They offer exclusive prices on all stock and custom uniforms exclusively to NCBBA teams. You get 15% off all orders with a 5 to 6 week turnaround. Fully customizable options, as you can see right here. I'm going to bring that up in front. That is our All-Star game jersey from last year. You see the shield right there at the top. Pretty sweet. And like I said, fully customizable options. Each and every garment also comes with that NCBBA logo, the shield, free of charge. And so just for you guys to look at, there are some examples of jerseys that were actually ordered last year by some of our men's teams. Again, contact Nathan Dorton if you'd like a full catalog, pricing details, you name it. He'll be able to set you up with that, but it's a pretty sweet offer. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to send it over to Sandy.
Thank you, Zach. All right. Ladies, no questions so far. I don't believe it. I won't challenge us. Give us some questions. Let us know what you got for us. All right, we're gonna move on to the voting ballot procedures. Let me explain how this will work. We're gonna bring up some issues, one at a time, that we think need to be addressed, and hopefully they'll end up on a voting ballot. If you guys approve it, it requires only you can put items on the voting ballot for the members to vote upon. But it's an open forum to create that ballot. We have a few items on our to-do list that we think need to be discussed to determine, right off the bat, is this something you want, or do you want differently than the men's side? But we're going to create this ballot, and then once we go through our list of items we want to discuss, we're going to open the floor to any rule change suggestions you may have as well. We're going to address these issues one at a time. Feel free to ask questions, chime in with opinions, and then ballots will be emailed out about a week from now. We should have the ballots done, ready to send out next Wednesday. Then we'll give each team a week to submit it. So only member teams get the vote, and only member teams get 1 vote each. And then the results will be released in basically 2 weeks, and we'll update the rule book based on anything that you've decided upon. So, all right. So moving forward, our first issue, we just want to point out, we need your alumni. our whole organization, Cole Club Sports, baseball, softball, basketball, football, 75% of our staff is volunteer. So we need your alumni. We don't have a previous track record of NCBBA-W action. So if you've got past presidents that are passionate about club basketball, maybe they're upset that, I graduated a year too early and don't get to play in the NCBBA. We need them. Those are the kind of people we need to help be regional directors, volunteer conference coordinators, sit on the top 15 voting panel, come to the national championship and help us put on the event. That's what we need to grow. So you know your alumni better than we do. If you know of anyone, reach out to them, give them our information, give us their information. We'll hunt them down and talk them into getting involved. But that's how all of our other leagues have gotten so big, is because the volunteers, the guys and girls that played in those organizations, when they were done, they didn't want to leave. They wanted to be a part of making it better for the next crop of athletes coming through. So, and it's no money out of pocket. Like, our volunteers that come to the national championship, we're paying their gas. We're putting them in the hotel. We're feeding them. There's no problems there. All right, the first topic I want to talk to, and many of you that I've talked to during the recruiting process, we knew this was going to be something that was going to be a big issue to discuss, is the conference scheduling format. On the men's side, they play a 3-game series schedule. So every weekend that they play, where they're scheduled Harvard at Yale, right? Harvard's going to Yale. They're playing a 3-game series. Now, that's the only time Harvard and Yale are going to meet that season. The reason they do the 3-game series, one, when we started the league, they said, Sandy, we're not varsity teams. We don't have a big budget. If we got to drive 3 hours, 4 hours to play games, we need to play more than one basketball game, which we agree. So the question was, how many do you play? They settled on 3 because it creates a natural head-to-head tiebreaker. At the end of the season, if 2 teams in the conference are 14-2, they're tied for the conference lead, you can look at their head-to-head results and say, well, that team won 2 of 3 against that team. That's the team that moves on. That's the team that doesn't. That's why the men's teams have adopted the 3-game series. It's designed to be played as a 2-game Saturday, 1-game Sunday. Most of our men's teams will leave Saturday morning, drive somewhere, play Saturday afternoon, play Saturday night, spend the night, play Sunday morning, and hit the road. Sorry, I thought we had a question there. That's how the concept was designed. We allow teams to play 3 games in one day if both parties agree. Now, no team can be, it's in our rules, no team can be forced to play 3 in one day, but if both sides agree, it's fine. 3 games, 3 collegiately officiated basketball games is a lot in one day. Because remember, this isn't intramurals. We're not running clock. Games don't take an hour. Games take an hour 45, 2:15 maybe, maybe longer if you end up in overtime. So 3 games in one day can be a lot. On the men's side, we saw some movement this year where teams were starting to show interest in going from the 3-game series to the 2-game series, in large part because, one, they don't want to get that hotel. Some of them don't want to get that hotel room and do the overnight stay. They can put 2 games in one day really easily. We were also seeing problems with teams who, they'd schedule 3 in one day, and if they lost the first 2, they would just forfeit the 3rd game, which nobody liked that look. And we also had issues with player conduct in Game 3 of a series when they played 3 in one day. Game 1 would be heated, be a tight ball game, things would get chippy. Game 2, it escalated more. By Game 3, they started throwing fists, and some club sports directors have approached me saying, if they were only playing 2 games, it wouldn't have escalated that far. They would have had time to get out of there and cool off and chill out. So the question on the table from us is, should the NCBBA-W keep the 3-game conference schedule like the men are doing, or should they adopt a 2-game conference schedule for this first inaugural season? The pros, again, it's no more attempts to try to play 3 games in one day. There's an opportunity to eliminate overnight travel on a road trip. opportunity to play 2 conference game series in one weekend. Because if you think about it that way, oh, we got this team twice on Saturday and a different team twice on Sunday. We've knocked out 2 of our conference series in one weekend. It's easier to reschedule a 2-game series than a 3-game series. It's an indoor sport. We get that. There's no rainouts, but what we've learned is, especially in the north, when it gets to, January, February, maybe early March, sometimes a snowstorm comes through and the roads aren't passable and games get canceled because one school can't physically get to the other school. We've got to reschedule games. When you get to that point, being able to reschedule 2 games is a lot easier than rescheduling all 3. The cons to the 2-game series, one is you're immediately cutting your conference game number total by 33%. And the other is that tiebreaker for, who is the conference winner could become something a little more less clean than head-to-head matchup. 2 teams end up 14-2. They split a 2-game series against each other. Now we might be going down the line. How'd they do against the 3rd best team? How'd they do against the 4th best team? Might be, how are we, point differential allowed in those conference games. So I personally would be very interested in seeing the women adopt a 2-game series. Now, I say that from a selfish standpoint because I've seen some interest in it on the men's side, and I'd love to see it in action to see, does it work? Is it a bad idea? We don't know. It's got merits both ways. So it's up to the women what they want to do. Is anybody out there supporting of at least putting it on the ballot, changing the rule book from a 3-game series to a 2-game series? We're looking for a team out there that supports that idea. Any comments or questions on this topic? You're on a little bit of a delay from me, so I'm going to give you a second to chime in there. We'd love to know first name and team or school for anybody that comments in. All right, we've got a response so far.
We have 2 responses from BC and GVSU.
Grand Valley State.
Now, Rutgers and Villanova, they're all in support.
Of the 2-game series.
Yes.
The 2-game series. Excellent. So we'll make sure that gets on the ballot. That'll get sent out next week. Thank you very much. Okay, next item we want to bring up is requirements for officials. The men's league requires that each team schedule a minimum of 2 officials for every contest, and that those officials must be high school certified or better. Now, the reason being, and we've seen teams go out there and schedule 3 officials per game. Obviously, that costs more money, but they feel like they get a better job done. And I've seen teams go out there and hire NCAA officials because they feel like those are better officials than even high school certified officials. The goal that the men were trying to avoid is, now that you're in conference play, you're in a league, every game matters. Every conference game matters. It's one step closer to making the playoffs or not making the playoffs. And a great example one of the men's teams said was, if I'm going to go to Virginia Tech for the biggest weekend of the year that's going to determine if we can take 2 of 3, we go to the playoffs or they go to the playoffs, I don't want an intramural referee refereeing that game who's probably not fully trained in all the rules of college basketball, but also might be buddies with the guys on this team or fraternity brothers with the guys on the team. They wanted to avoid that situation where the most important game of their year is being officiated by the other team's point guard's best friend. So, which makes complete sense to me. Now, that comes at a cost. IM refs are cheap. High school refs are more expensive, but they're considerably less than NCAA college officials. So the first question on the table is, should the NCBBA-W maintain this minimum high school level of certification for officials? The pros to that, you're talking about better trained in the basketball rules. They're less likely to be biased towards one team versus the other. The cons being they simply cost more than intramural officials. So, it's up to the women what they want to do. Do we have any comments on this? Basically, the rule is currently written. They must be high school certified. The question on the table is, should we even take into account the idea of IM certified officials are good enough? Now, keep in mind, some IM officials also have a high school certification which is good enough. Then they're high school certified. That's great. They can officiate games. But if someone's highest level of basketball officiating certification is intramural on your campus, should they be eligible to referee an NCBBA-W game is the question. And I'll pause, kill some time while we're on delay, see what kind of response we've got coming. We'll address in just a second the idea of requirements of the two official requirements. We'll get to that step next. But right now we're just focused on, does anybody think that IM officials should be deemed good enough to referee an NCBBA game? No comments? All right. Well, then we're going to move on under the assumption. Oh, wait, we have a comment here.
Dylan Hill from Brockport is a strong supporter of 2 high school certified officials per game.
Okay, so there's no support there for IM officials for these games. Okay, so we will move on. That means there's no motion to change the men's rule book or the women's rule book to allow IM officials, so that's not going to be put on the ballot. Next question. On the men's side, they require a minimum of 2 officials. Do we want to maintain that? Is there anybody out there that thinks 1 official is enough? Now, we have some stuff in our rules that covers, like, you schedule 2 officials, but only 1 shows up, you can still play. I think that covers it, but you got to schedule 2 is the idea there. Because things happen, 1 official gets in a car accident or, something happens. We don't want you to not play basketball because you booked 2, only 1 showed. So does anybody out there support the idea of just booking 1 official is good enough? Apologize for the awkward silence, but I believe you guys are on. From when I talk, you get to hear it 8 seconds after I say it. 11 seconds. See, Ben knows what he's doing over there, and RSID's on top of it. No comments? All right, so 2 officials, high school certified it is. All righty, moving on. The next item we want to talk about, regional playoffs. The dates. When do you want it to happen? I threw out some dates in, starting with late March to early April. March 27th to the 29th is an option for when we could have the regional playoffs. To me, the only downside about that is it's potentially has some conflicts with spring break kind of issues. April 3rd to 5th is also a good week, I think, that we could host the regional playoffs. April 10th to 12th to me is no good. Easter falls that weekend. I think we're going to have a hard time finding facilities that will open up for us on Easter Sunday, getting officials booked on Easter Sunday. I'm probably going to be an earful from a bunch of parents about why their daughter's not at home on Easter Sunday. So I think the April 10th to 12th is no good there. Any later than that, then really what happens is, because the national championship is 2 to 3 weeks after regionals, you're now talking about sticking national championship into May. And I don't think anybody wants to do that. Unless anybody has other suggestions, I would propose the idea that we put on the ballot, hey, what do you prefer for regional playoff dates? March 27th to 29th or April 3rd to 5th? Or perhaps either one works for you. That's where I would go with this, unless anybody else has another suggestion on dates for the regional playoffs. Oh, we have a comment?
So Katie from GVSU wants to know what days are games played on for conference and regional games.
Okay, well, great question. Katie it is? Katie? Great question, Katie. So the way the conference schedule is going to work out, we break the season down into weeks. So we're going to say, let's say, Katie was with Grand Valley State, right? All right, so let's say we come out with the conference schedule and we say week 3, Grand Valley State is at Central Michigan, right? That might not be a great example because I don't know how close you are, but let's say you're 2 hours apart. You're not going to play during the week, most likely, but it's between you two. Like, you guys can coordinate that. During week 3, you've got to play 2 or 3 games, whenever the vote works out. Grand Valley State is going to Central Michigan for 2 or 3 games, right? If that trip is 2 hours away, it's going to be a weekend. Now, let's say a situation like, who do we got in Philadelphia? We've got like St. Joe's and Villanova, who are 20 minutes apart. They might get the schedule and say Villanova at St. Joe's week 7. They might say, hey, we've got all week to play these. Let's not burn our weekend. Why don't we play Tuesday and Wednesday night, because we're only 20 minutes away, and then our weekend's open. We can go play somebody else. We can just have a weekend off. We can, do whatever we want. So you have that flexibility. 99% of the conference games are played on the weekends. The only rare occasion people play during the week is when they're so close to each other. Travel, it really doesn't matter at all. Regional playoffs are always going to be a weekend. It's going to start on a Saturday, end on a Sunday. Hope that answered your question, Katie. Yes, Zach.
So Jules from BC supports the two-game conference series.
Yep, we've already got that. Yep. It's going to be on the ballot. Yep. So in terms of regional playoffs, I think we're going to move forward. It doesn't sound like we have any other suggestions on dates for the regional playoffs. So we've got basically last weekend of March, first weekend of April as what we view as good options. We'll put that on the ballot to let the teams, to survey the teams to see what they have to say. Now the format of the regional playoffs. When it gets to, all right, so if in a situation like the North Atlantic, unless the North Atlantic explodes in the next 3 weeks, which I don't think it will, I think it'll grow, but it's not going to get so big it has to split. The North Atlantic is going to remain one conference, in which case they're going to play their conference schedule, and at the end of the season, the number 2 team goes to the number 1 team, plays a best of 3 regional playoff for the right to go to the national championship. For conferences like the Mid-Atlantic that are going to split North and South, where it's 2 teams from the North, 2 teams from the South, 4 teams get together. Our current format is for that to be a 4-team single elimination tournament. That's what the men have wanted. That's what the men have done. Doesn't mean that's what the women have to do, but we need to be prepared to. We need to prepare for that. The men have always viewed college basketball is a single elimination tournament. When you go from the field of 64 down to the Sweet 16 to the Final Four, it's a single elimination run. And that's what they've wanted us to structure our organization like. So regionals for the men's league, it's single elimination. They get to the national championship, it's single elimination. From the regional playoff side of things, is there a better version of that that you would rather see? One of the things with like a 4-team regional, if you start getting into double elimination, you run into things like, all right, we're going to have to extend it. It's going to have to become a 3-day event. It would have to, get more courts going at one time, which means, more facilities. That could become a little bit harder to control. Because now we're looking for, all right, congratulations, you are the higher seed. We're coming to you. We now need you to provide us 2 courts for 3 days instead of 1 court for 2 days. So if you have any problems with the single elimination format we're currently using, speak up. The other question I have is consolation games. We have done for years on the men's side at the regional level, 2 teams get eliminated in the first round of regional playoffs. We would set them up in a consolation game so they got a second game in that weekend. The teams have just this year, after 6 years of doing that, they have voted to remove that consolation game because on the men's side, basically what it got to was, this is league play now. Everything matters. Everybody's pouring all their blood, sweat, and tears on the court to get there, and their season ends. What we've seen is they don't want to play another game, even though, yes, they've driven, 3 hours to get to this regional site. At this point, their season is over. They don't want to play a meaningless basketball game. We can put it together. It's easy to put together. We've just found on the men's side, they don't want it. they stopped playing it. Teams would lose and just look at each other and say, look, I don't want to play another game. I want to get out of here, and my season's over, and we'll regroup and lick our wounds and get ready for next year. So we were wasting money on court rentals. We were wasting money on referees that we had to pay that never had to referee a game because the teams walked away and didn't want to play the consolation game. So the question on the table is, women, do you want a consolation game at the regional playoffs for the teams that have the early exit? And if somebody supports that idea, you want consolation games, speak now, put it in the comments, and then that'll be enough to put it on the ballot. Do we have any new questions questions or comments there, Zach?
Just a quick comment from Ashley at Rutgers. She knows nothing is finalized, but the current teams of the Mid-Atlantic might be better split east and west rather than north and south.
Okay. Thank you, Ashley. We actually fully intend to be adding probably another 2 or 3 more teams to the Mid-Atlantic before we make that decision. So we will evaluate that. We'll go in depth into drive times and things like that. There's quite a bit more. I think we're going to be adding more teams in the area, really all over the country too, including the West Coast. So, but thank you for the comment, and we certainly will take that into account when we get to our realignment phase. All right, we're looking. If anybody feels that consolation games should be included at the regional playoffs, please chime in, and we'll put that on the ballot. All right. Moving on to national championship dates. Oh, we got a comment there.
We have Mary from Binghamton supports yes to consolation games.
Okay, it'll go on the ballot. Thank you, Mary. National championship. When do you want it is the question. The first question. When do we want it? Mid-April, April 10th to 12th is Easter. Again, no good. April 17th to the 19th. That's the same weekend the men have their conference national championship. I'm just pointing that out there. That is neither good nor bad for us. We will make it happen if that's the weekend you think is what you want. April 24th to the 26th is another possibility. And we're open to other suggestions if you got it. But to me, our 2 options are 17th to 19th or 24 to 26, unless you come up with something else. Now, it's possible, we run our national championship, like our men's national championship. It's one game at a time. We slow play it, right? One game at a time. The team's got locker rooms. There's halftime breaks. There's PA announcing and music and video broadcast and play-by-play analysts and halftime interviews and press conferences, right? All this stuff goes on. We can't, what am I trying to say? We can't have 2 courts going on at the same time in the same facility. So I don't know if the women are interested in being the same weekend as the men, in the same town as the men. It wouldn't be in the same facility. It would not be a situation where there's 1 court over here with men's games and 1 court over here with women's games. That wouldn't be the case. If the women wanted it, we could maybe get a different facility in South Bend if they wanted, but really that's up to them. To me, the question on the table, 10th to 12th, 17th to 19th, which is better for the teams. And I think those are what should go, not 10th to 12th, that's Easter. April 17 to 19 or April 24 to 26. I think that's what should go on the ballot for the teams to weigh their opinion on and see what they think is the best option. Unless someone else poses another suggestion of dates for the national championship. In terms of the location, we read off our priority list that the men have given us. What I'd be curious is this the same priority list that the women want? Now, the men, tournament location, centrally located, that's their number 1 priority. Makes a lot of sense. Centrally located for the women's league this first year doesn't necessarily mean South Bend. We are very heavy East Coast right now. I would give in, if I probably stuck pins in a map right now, I'd probably tell you the central location of the current league right now is probably Pittsburgh, West Virginia, maybe somewhere like that. And we have the ability when the time comes to actually get to a very specific, this is the center point of the organization, and then we can work out from there if central location is what you want. On the baseball side, for years our baseball teams told us we don't care about central location, we want a vacation atmosphere. Their national championship is much different. Theirs is 7 days long. They wanted to be at the beach. For 12 years we were at the beach playing baseball for their national championship. So the question, here's our list of 7 priorities, what's most important to the men. If any women out there feel they think this priority list should be changed, flip-flopped, maybe there's something we're not even taking into account here that you think should be a priority, throw it in the comment box and we can put it on the ballot. If we get no other feedback, this is what we're going to look for when we pick our venue. In terms of the format, again, we go 8 regions. 8 teams make the national championship. It's the 8 best teams in the country, in my opinion. We basically go 8, 4, 8 teams down to 4, 4 teams down to 2, down to 1 national champion. And it sounds like since we have support for consolation games at the regional level, we'll want to include those at the national level too, or at least put it on the ballot for inclusion. Go ahead.
Katie from GVSU agrees with the priority list that the men have.
Okay. Thank you, Katie. So format, 8 teams, single elimination. Again, if there's another format you want to get out there, propose it. But keep in mind, let's say teams want to do double elimination or 16 teams. The bigger it gets, the more expensive it gets, which results in your dues. Plus, it also it stretches the event out. It becomes a longer event. And I'm not sure that's what you want. Right now, our national championship is a 3-day. It's Friday, Saturday, all day Friday, all day Saturday, and we finish up Sunday morning in time for hit the road and get back to campus for Monday classes. We'll put since we have support for consolation games at the regional level, we'll put it on the ballot at the national championship level. Any other comments on national championship, or can we move forward?
Yeah, no, Mary agrees with the priority list as well. Sounds like Boston College wants to see prioritizing the weekend.
The weekend most important? Okay. So we will, that's fine. What we will do is we will put on the ballot. We have it all set up where the teams will get to rate. Hey, what is your priorities? What is your priorities? What is your priorities? Basically, all member teams will get to list take these same items, put them in their list of priority order, and then it'll funnel out like the average list, which is how we got this for the men's side too. So we will give that up to the teams to decide if they want to reshuffle this for. That's easily done. That'll be on the ballot as well. So, okay. Well, those are the items that the NCBBA wanted to put on the table for discussion. The floor is now open. Are there any, hopefully everybody got the set of rules we created. We took the men's rules, turned a bunch of words that said he and the she, and stuck a W on the end of everywhere it said NCBBA, turned the M into a W, and then sent them out to you. Alex sent them out last week for you to review. This is the time where, hey, if you've got something you'd like to see run different, propose that rule change now. Let us know so we can talk about it, see if we can get some support, and get it on the ballot for you, and see how the masses feel about it. So, appreciate who we got. We got Rutgers and BC chiming in, Grand Valley. I think we said Brockport participating. Thank you so much for not only tuning in. I know there's much bigger numbers of spectators than just those 4 or 5 that have been chiming in and commenting, but that's what makes this league go. Is we need your feedback, we need your opinions, we need your insight. So appreciate that. We've got a comment coming in.
Mary from Binghamton wants to know, if you fill the 18-person roster, do all 18 people have to come to each conference game?
No. Great question. No, the 18-person roster are the only people eligible to play. You can just bring 5 as long as those 5 are on that 18-person list, just bring 5. It's up to you, but only those 18. If you put 18 people on the list and find a 19th person, your list is full. So, no, they don't all have to travel with every weekend. No, not at all.
Jennifer from Rutgers wants to know, can we increase the roster size?
What would you want to increase it to? That would be the place to start here is propose. We'd like to go from 18 to X. Tell us what X is, and we'll see if someone out there supports it. And if someone supports it, we'll put it on the ballot. So the first question on the table is, what do you want to increase it to? And keep in mind, hopefully obviously people have been reading the rule book, which is outstanding. That's great that you know that the roster size is 18. Just to elaborate on that a little bit, there is an opportunity to remove players from your roster. 3, right, Zach? It's 3. 3 players from your roster if they meet certain criteria, such as they graduate at the end of this end of the fall semester. Maybe they study abroad. They transfer schools or drop out, or if they're academically no longer carrying a 2.0, let's say they did bad on their fall finals, now they drop below a 2.0 and aren't academically eligible, they could be dropped from the roster, and then now you've gone from, let's say, 18 down to 15. You now have 3 roster spots that you could backfill and get back up. Go ahead.
So they would like to increase the roster size to 25, and it's supported by Brockport, Villanova, and PSU.
Wow. To 25. That's like 2 teams. Yeah. You might, if you've got 25 people on your team, I think you should have an A and a B team. That's my opinion. But we'll put it on the ballot and see how it flies.
Maggie from Providence College wants to know, can you talk more specifically about payments and dates for fundraising purposes?
For fundraising purposes. Okay. So the first piece of finances that's due, and if you check your league participation agreement that you signed, it has all this listed on it. So the first item that's due is your performance bond. It's $150. It's due October 15th. That's the money that, provided you don't forfeit any conference games, you get that back at the end of the season. So that's number 1, chronological order. Your annual dues. There is a discount of $100. Annual dues are $800. If you pay them early, it's $700. So you save $100 by paying them early. The early payment deadline, December 31st of this year. If you don't pay them early and you just pay them on time, then you have till the end of February to pay them. So $800 in February, pay them off by New Year's Eve. You got to save $100 pay there. So $700 New Year's Eve. That's what I would target. And then the $150 in October. And just to elaborate on the 25 person roster, which I would think you're going to have a hard time with that big a roster because of the amount of playing time girls get. You're going to have people that don't get enough playing time. It's going to be troublesome. A lot of our teams on the men's side have 2. Like Harvard has 2 teams. Grand Canyon has 2 teams. Purdue had 2 teams. SUNY Binghamton had 2 teams. Rowan has 2 teams. They've got enough interest where they have their A team and their B team, and they both are in the league. So they're both competing, oftentimes in the same conference, but at least they're spreading people out and they're getting more playing time in. So.
Kristen from BC would like to suggest running clock, especially if they're sticking with 3-game series.
Does anybody support that? So let's go with the if the 3-game series is going. Now, if the 3-game series passes, if we keep it 3 games, then do we keep a running clock? Now, I'd like to point out that we have something in the rules like a mercy rule where if a team in the second half is up by 20, then the clock runs to keep things moving. That's already in there. I personally am not in favor of running clock because to me that's intramurals. And we're not intramurals. We're college club athletics. But if somebody else supports it out there, we'll put it on the ballot. So we're looking at supporting the idea, if the 3-game series stays, using a running clock for the games. Anybody support that? Boom. So we talked about rules. We talked about rosters. All right. We'll move along. If somebody does support their proposal of a running clock, if the 3-game series holds, if someone supports that, we will put it on the ballot. But what other items do we have out there? Any other proposals? I'm excited by this. People are reading the rule book, and you're getting your strategies down. So that's awesome. I like the engagement. This is fantastic. Anybody else out there? Any other comments? All right. Well, we are going to move forward then, and I'm going to bring Bubby up to take us through. I'm going to bring Alec up to take us through the timetable. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. This was fantastic. I think we got some great things on the voting ballot that I'll get that out next week, and we'll shape these rules up just the way you like them. Awesome. Great job, ladies.
Thank you, Sandy. As he was saying, again, thank you to everybody who's tuned in so far. Great feedback. Love hearing you guys talk in the comment section. So for our timetable, obviously August 7th today, that is the league meeting. It's our first ever annual league meeting. August 21st is when the voting ballots are due. So after this, we'll put the voting ballots together, as Sandy has said. We'll try to get those put together within the next week and sent out, and those will be due on August 21st. August 31st is when the new team LPA deadline. That is when our recruiting will end. That's when everything will be finalized as far as how our teams are set up. September 1st is when our schedule request forms are due. I sent those out last Thursday to the teams, so you have a month to get those turned in. And then we would like to have the conference schedules released on September 15th, so please get those in on time so we can be sure to get the schedules made by September 15th. October 15th, the team previews are due, which Sandy had talked about earlier. That's your opportunity to brag about your team, talk about your players, whatever you may want to say about them. And that is also when the performance bonds are due. That's the $150, basically a deposit that Sandy was talking about, that if you forfeit a game, we deduct $50 from that. If you don't forfeit any games, we refund it to you after the season. October 31st, the preseason polls are released. So you'll have your preseason rankings in, something you can brag about if you're on there. Just at that point, it's more for fun than anything until the season gets going and we can actually see how you guys do against each other. November 1st, the regular season begins. Something I want to throw in there, that the player registration and academic eligibility letters are due 2 weeks before your first game. We haven't touched on that too much, but the academic eligibility letter is basically something that you will put all of your players on. And if your school requires their school code number or their social security number, whatever it may be, you include that. You submit it to the school, and then they will basically verify for us that you are academically eligible to play in our league. So you have to maintain a 2.0 GPA, and you will have to be a full-time student through your school. From there, December 31st is, as Sandy said earlier, is the deadline to receive the annual dues discount. At that point, if you pay by December 31st, it is $700. And then the next one is February 28th, which is the deadline for the dues, the very latest you can be paying them, and at that point you will be paying $800. Late March is when the regular season will conclude. That's something we talked about earlier. So whenever the regional playoffs and everything come, that's still up in the air. So late March or early April will be the beginning of the regional championship tournaments, with mid to late April being the national championship tournament, and that is where we will crown our first ever NCBBA-W national champion. In closing, again, thank you all for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Having your voices be heard is awesome. We love hearing any feedback, any proposed rule changes, whatever it may be. Please promote the league, in our website and everything to, if there's other teams out there that aren't in the league that you guys are familiar with, let us know, let them know about the league. We want to grow as much as we can, get as many different teams for you guys to play. Also, give our sponsors business whenever possible. They're great. They came on board with us. So please give them business whenever possible. If any issues arise, please notify, Sandy, me, or your conference coordinator whenever we get those named. We want to take care of everything, make sure you have the best experience possible. Piggybacking off of that, let no question go unanswered. We're here for you. We're here to answer your questions. That's what we're here for. So we want to help you if you have anything that you need. Keep lines of communication open. We will be communicating with you throughout the year, whether that be me, Sandy, or your conference coordinator. So please don't go dark on us. We need you to communicate back with us. There may be times where we have questions or we have forums, whatever we may need from you. Please keep the communication line open. And please be prompt in meeting deadlines as well. We have those there for a reason. Like all the payments, all those, the schedule request forms, whatever it may be, please be prompt in meeting those deadlines for us. Last but not least, remember, it's a game, have fun.